And visiting us is the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. That man is Bob Kendrick, who comes in every single year to talk about the Negro Leagues, the museum. And I just love the fact that the guys are wearing the 1942 uniform of the Monarchs team that Buck O'Neil said was the favorite team he ever played on.
Said it was his all-time favorite team, and for good reason. They were a dynamite team. They had 3 Hall of Famers, Satchel Paige, Hilton Smith, and the great Willard Brown. And then another tier of guys who were right there borderline Hall of Famers. Buck O'Neil, who should be in the Hall of Fame, Hank Thompson, and the great Ted Strong, all on that 1942 team. They swept the powerful Homestead Grays in 1942. Homestead Grays were a prohibitive favorite in that series. But again, the old adage, good pitching takes care of good hitting.
You better believe it.
And that Monarch pitching staff was tremendous. Not one of the greatest pitching staffs in Negro Leagues history, but guys, one of the greatest pitching staffs in baseball history. It was a dynamite. They had a dynamite roster. You know, we talk about 4-man rotations. They had 6 guys who could just shut you down.
Ooh, man.
Yeah, they just shut you down.
So they ain't going to be no hitting unless there's mistakes, and those guys don't make mistakes.
And Satchel didn't make too many mistakes. And the great Hilton Smith, you know, both of those guys coming at you, 1-2 Hall of Fame kinds of guys. And so, you know, they were outstanding. And it's great for us now to look 75 years later at the second World Series that they won. But, you know, I have to remind folks that they didn't play a World Series every year. So the Monarchs won 10 pennants and 2 World Series because, you know, the World Series wasn't played every year.
Bob, now, it's very difficult. Let's see if you can get in on that. Very difficult. We're dressed to the nines today, and that's why people would come from church. It's difficult to change the service time in church, any church.
Any church.
Okay, now 11 o'clock, that's perfect for everybody. They can get up, eat a little breakfast, get dressed. But then they changed it, though, for the Negro League Baseball, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's even magnified, Hood, in the black church. You don't mess with service time.
No.
11 o'clock Sunday go to meeting. But when the Monarchs were home, service started at 10 o'clock. And everybody filed out, going to that Sunday doubleheader looking good. Yeah.
And the reason they dress for church is out of respect.
Of course.
And then baseball. But why?
Ooh. Lindor to center field, and Kane near the wall pulls it down. Santana, who was at second base, has to retrace his steps.
Bob, but it seemed like, you know, you see Major League games, even the fans all they dressed up in baseball.
This was, as Buck would say, this was the dress-up era. No matter where you went, you went looking good. And so that carried over into baseball as it did in society. But you have to remember that a Negro Leagues game wasn't a recreational event. It was the social event of the week. Nice. So you went to see and you went to be seen. You know, that was all part of it.
Sweet. And I had my picture. I went out with the folks today out there at the gate. Passed out some of the jerseys, and there were some hot-looking people coming in there.
They looking good.
Yeah,
they looking good.
And I was wanting pictures on my phone, and not on your phone. I want a picture with you, ma'am.
And what I love is the kids, the parents who are getting the kids involved.
Right.
And that's what makes this special. This is transcendent. You know, you're passing down tradition. And I think that's what makes our museum so special. That's what makes a day like today, when we get an opportunity to partner with the Kansas City Royals, who have done a tremendous job year in and year out of building upon what was already a great event, and how do we make it better. And we've been able to continue to do that. But we're passing down that tradition from generation to generation. And I think that's really, really important. And then we're teaching history at the same time.
I didn't know any of that until I came here to Kansas City.
Yeah.
We're so fortunate to have it right here in our own house.
Yeah, we are.
In our back door. But I got to tell you, Bob, I was sharing earlier with Fizz some of the greatest hitting coaches, managers that I got to play for, and also Hall of Famers. And I can't. It was nothing I did. So, you know, in baseball, you're put in certain situations. Dave Winfield, you know, Ken Griffey, Willie Randolph, these guys. Ricky Henderson, Ozzie Smith. I was teammates with all those guys, and I learned so much from them, and some of those guys were my mentors.
Well, I'll never forget the first time that Ozzie Smith came to the new museum when we opened it in '97, November '97. And Ozzie walked in, and he was walking around, and he walked on the Field of Legends where the statues are. And it was very emotional for him. because he understood that he had stood on the shoulders of these men to have an opportunity to fulfill his dream of playing in the major leagues. And the late great Buck O'Neil would so eloquently say, it's rare in our society that we celebrate the people who built the bridge. Inevitably, we celebrate those who crossed over the bridge. But at the Negro Leagues Museum, we celebrate the bridge builders.
Exactly.
The people who made it possible for Ozzie Smith to enjoy that fabulous 13 Gold Glove career that he had, and the Frank Whites who became great ball players as a result of.
There's a great play by Salvador Perez. I mean, that is Gold Glove play right there.
I can tell you now, Josh Gibson would appreciate what he just saw right there from Salvador.
Well, now Salvi wishes he had his bat, though, Gibson's bat, right?
They all wish they had Gibson's bat.
He had the most powerful. But
I've got to ask a question, though.
Go ahead.
Josh Gibson, greatest hitter maybe of all time, 80 home runs. Game 2 of the World Series, the 42 Monarchs are playing, and Satchel Paige in the 7th inning, a triple with 2 outs. He has an argument with his manager because he wants to walk the next 2 batters to get to who?
I don't know why the manager was arguing, because nobody argued with Satchel Paige. So if Satchel wanted to do it, that's what was going to happen. And he walked the bases loaded to face Josh, the most feared hitter in all of baseball, HUD. And
Sends chills down my spine.
And then not only did he walk the bases loaded to face Josh, struck him out on 3 pitches after telling him what he was going to throw him. But only Satchel Paige. And Buck says the next year, Steve, Josh and Satchel hook up again there in New York, and he says that Satchel tried to get a fastball past Josh. He says Josh hit the ball so hard. You know how the pitcher goes to his follow-through? Yeah. Went right over the top of his head into Monument Gardens in Yankee Stadium. As Josh is circling the bases, Satchel's still down there. He never comes up. and he looks over at first base, and, of course, he called Buck Nancy. He says, Nancy, you know a fella could get killed out here. But, these guys knew that baseball was entertainment. So when you went to a Negro Leagues game, you were going to see great baseball, but you were also going to be thoroughly entertained, which is why it was a little bit different than the major leagues had seen at that time, and which is also why they drew such a high level of both black and white fans during an era of segregation when that was virtually unheard of.
Whit Merrifield gets to it in a hurry, and he'll throw out Edwin Encarnacion. Bob, we've got to keep you for another half inning. Your stories are so too good.